Were you aware that there were two groups in the early church that tried to maintain the keeping of the law? So let me explain. Prior to the coming of St. Paul, the church viewed the law as binding, and that Jesus came within the law, fulfilled the law, and was the prophesied Messiah, and that the law, even though Jesus was the way for salvation, the law was still a way to please God. Well, when Paul came, Paul had a different revelation. Paul believed, you can find this in Galatians 3 and 4, that the law was a temporary measure and that it was only suited to keep the Jews from apostatizing until Christ could come. Once Christ came, the law was no longer necessary. So then you had two different views of Christianity. You had Pauline Christianity, and then you had the Jewish style of Christianity. The apostles accepted the Pauline Christianity. Peter said that the writings of Paul are hard to understand, and those who are unlearned wrestle with Paul's writings to their own destruction. And in Acts 15, they acknowledged that they had hoped that the Gentiles or the Jews would end up being saved in the same manner that the Gentiles are being saved, which was through faith. So apart from the law. So the apostles agreed with the Pauline type of Christianity. However, there were still many in the Jerusalem church who did not agree with Pauline Christianity. The Holy Spirit had even warned Paul his first visit to Jerusalem to leave because they won't accept your witness in this city. Then at the end, that's at the beginning of Paul's ministry. At the end, near 30 years later, Paul goes in, and James even tells Paul, there are many people still in the city who still have a problem with you in your beliefs. So the Jerusalem church never quite accepted Paul's revelation, even though the apostles and James did. So there ended up two styles of Jewish Christianity. Both of them primarily died out, but there were two views. Paul's view was that the gospel came by faith and the law was not a way to please God. The first type of Jewish Christianity completely rejected Paul, completely rejected all of his teachings, and believed that the law was still binding, the law of Moses was still binding, and that to please God you had to keep all 613 commandments of the law and accept Jesus